I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Hornady Podcast. I'm your host, Seth, and I've got a full table today. To my left, marketeer Matt Ritchie. Across the table, the engineering types, Miles Neville, Ryan Damman. Guys, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Afternoon.
Glad to be here.
Glad to be back.
Glad to be back. Well, this is not a somber podcast by any means, but it did, you kind of think about your year and what you're going to do all year, and then you get to it and it's over, and then the next thing you know, it's over. It's over. And then what do you do? And so I just kind of went around the office and grabbed a couple ideas, and our main man, Mr. Judge Arzinka, he kind of came up with this idea, and then we just kind of ran with it. Because it's something we all go through as people, and then specifically to our space as outdoorsmen, we all go through this. You live your life planning on what you're going to do for the hunt. What am I hunting? When can I start? Got archery in September. Am I doing any pig hunting in the spring? I'm fishing. I'm hiking. I'm e-scouting. What about the fall? Do I get to hunt the rut this year? Muzzleloader season, tree stands. You go through all of it and you live for it. But when it gets here, it goes that fast. Yep, it just goes like a match to paper. Poof, gone. And then you're sitting here in the next year, dazed and confused, wondering what the heck just happened. And then, what do I do now? And so that's what I want this podcast to be. I've got some stuff written down here in my phone. We're going to go through, what do you do now? And so that's why we've got this motley crew put together. We've got Matt to my left. Everybody knows Matt is the varmint guy, so we're going to hear from that. We got Ryan, the more technical guy, Miles, the match shooter guy. So I just want to hear everybody's different thoughts on what you do now. So the stuff I have written down is in no particular order, just stuff we threw at the wall that seemed like a good idea. But before we get there, guys, tell me, how do you feel at this point? It's 2025. We're just a week in here. And the last, 4 months to me seemed like a blur. I had kind of a slow burn, wasn't doing a ton of hunting in September, October, and then it escalated real fast and I wasn't home at all. I wasn't in the office more than 5 days for the entire month of December. I was just gone. It was hunting. I got to go on a pheasant hunt recently, which was, something I grew up doing and have, gotten back to now was awesome. But now I just feel like I need to find a way to stretch that all out. So how do you guys feel sitting here in 2025, looking back at, we're in the Midwest here on the prairie. We have a very finite amount of time to do stuff, unless you like doing it when it's 0 degrees outside and the wind's blowing like it is today. So if you're in the South and it's nice all the time, or if you're in California or something and it's always summer, this doesn't really apply to you. But for us, it does. We have a fixed timeline to go out and do this outdoor stuff. So how do you guys feel about it?
I feel like December went by like that fast because my youngest was old enough. He did his hunter safety, got that all done, wanted to go kill his first deer. We're successful on that opening day, the evening of opening day of rifle season here. Got a really nice 140, 145 inch whitetail.
Woo. Yep. Stud.
And then my middle son, who's 14, was like, okay, it's my turn. And I'm like, yeah, we'll do muzzleloader. And then December was here and then it's gone. And so we maybe muzzleloader hunted a couple times. So I'm going, where to go?
Where did it go?
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point of the year, every year, I find myself reflecting on past hunting season and looking forward to next season, early season next year. Like, what should I have done differently every year? And because you always have, I said the biggest, loftiest goals of I want to kill this many deer and do it this way. And usually those goals adjust as the season goes on because I'm not successful. And as well, what do I do in the next couple months, early spring? What do I do in spring and summer to try to set myself up better for next fall?
Yeah.
It's usually where I'm at this time of year. That's what I'm doing now already.
Yeah. Miles, how do you feel about you do hunt, but not a huge hunter, but definitely in the match scene? I mean, you guys are burning it down. How do you feel about your last season and where you sit now looking into the next season?
Yeah, because PRS season finale was in early November, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so since then, from there, It's just a breakdown of how I did throughout the season at the matches I was able to attend, and then highlighting areas that I think I can improve on, and then planning basically practice. It's tough sometimes at this time of the year to get out and practice, but wherever we can or wherever I can, I try to get out, even if it's cold, because that's good practice too.
Yeah.
The less you can let the weather bother you, that's one more separation from the folks that don't.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just been breaking down, going through, putting new barrels on, making sure. Was out in the rain and the snow a little bit, so pull the whole gun all the way apart, clean everything up, put it all back together, verify that loads are good, and start looking at loading ammo for this season.
It sounds very similar that we're all like, man, year went pretty quick, because it always does. So what I have, the first one, this was Mr. Judge Yarzinka's first suggestion of things you should do when it's all over. And for us here in Nebraska, I don't know a single person who's a muzzleloader hunter that doesn't need to hear this. All of us need to hear this and live by it. Hunt season's over. Shoot that muzzleloader or pull out the breech plug and send everything out the backside and clean the darn thing. Now, Ryan, you're the resident muzzleloader guy, but I think everybody who's ever touched one has, left that loaded for a little while, or, man, didn't clean that thing. It was unloaded, but man, I put a bore scope in there and that thing looks like it's got caves down the barrel.
Yeah. Not the best thing to leave a bunch of powder sitting in that muzzleloader. So there's a difference between scrubbing it out in between shots and hunting or shooting sessions and long-term cleaning, because it's probably going to sit for 11 months maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So you might want to get that thing nice and dry, get your breech plug clean and dry, because I want to set my muzzle up to be nice and usable for quite a long time. So
absolutely,
you don't want to let it sit with powder in for too long. I'll first admit it's been loaded for weeks during hunting season, but when it comes to now that it's over, as of 6 days ago, get that thing emptied and clean it.
Yeah.
And I'm not even really a muzzleloader hunter, but I had at one point in my life a cap and ball revolver, and at that point I was in the Marine Corps, so we went out shooting and I loaded it up, and this was in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I'm like, oh, well, it's dry. It should be fine, and let it sit at my parents' place. And then about a year later, came back out and tried to shoot it, and it was like Roman candles coming out of there. Probably should have just broken it down and cleaned it instead of trying to shoot it. It was, almost dangerous. But very, very erratic performance at that point.
I think we've all got friends too that have, it's December 1st. I'm going muzzleloader hunting this weekend, and they get their muzzleloader out. Oh, whoops. Forgot to unload that. And then you go to try to shovel all that stuff out. That's difficult. And then you have to clean that stuff out. And powder, that black powder substitute, it'll chew up a barrel pretty good. You can look down those barrels and go, woof. And generally they still perform well. I've got a buddy of mine that, his barrel looks like it's just got scallops in it, really, and it still shoots fine. So may not have a direct impact on performance, but it can't be good for it. So if you're in a state where you do some muzzleloader hunting, muzzleloader season's over, and this is, as a Nebraska resident with a 31-day season, get that thing empty and clean it for long-term storage, because, you just set yourself up for success the next year. So, big PSA on shooting and cleaning the muzzleloader. Now, point number 2, this was one of my suggestions here, and it doesn't necessarily fit specifically to Hornady's products or to us as hunters per se, but it kind of falls into the category of being a proactive student of life, if you will. And there's something that I'm going to do in this off season that I haven't done in a while, and done this stuff before, but I am going to go seek out some stop the bleed and some CPR training. And I feel like that kind of falls in the, the self-help and betterment category, maybe the preparedness category. But I don't know. It's something that I feel is important. I'm around a bunch of people all the time, hunting in and of itself, people with blades, just anything, just life in general. That's something that, I CPR certified, let that expire. And now in hindsight, it's like, I should stay up on that. There's no reason not to do that, or there's no reason not to go to the local community college and for $100 take a stop the bleeding class or something like that. So, and those skills can transfer to life or could transfer to you in the backcountry or, somebody else on a hunt. So I don't know if that necessarily fits here, but for me, it was an important thing that I am going to look at in this off season. So I don't know if there's anything else maybe similar to that self-help that you guys are thinking about, or if you guys have thought about doing the CPR or stop the bleed training.
Definitely go through. I keep an IFAK in my pack whenever I go to those shooting matches because you got 70 to 150, 200 people with rifles shooting all day. I mean, God willing, there's never an accident, but if there is, nice to know that you got the stuff to hopefully save somebody if it does. Yeah,
tourniquets work. They work really well, among other things.
Yeah, I don't know how it fits in, but I've got a teenage boy, and it seems like the dang kids these days always want to just wear shorts and a sweatshirt everywhere, and I'm always on him. Prepare for the worst. Like if you've got to walk, what if a vehicle breaks down? What if we get stranded somewhere? Mm-hmm. Bring a coat, bring gloves, got hat, all this extra stuff, And I would say that falls right along with the line of having a tourniquet, having, a compression band and stuff, being able to put some pressure on a wound if you get injured in the backcountry. Of course, where I hunt, I've never got too far in the backcountry, usually within, a half mile of a residence, so we can get somewhere quick. But still, it's a long time before that ambulance gets there. So definitely a good idea.
Yep. And we've,
good time. Oh yeah. Good time of year to go through it and make sure what you have, even if you have one, it's 3-4 years old and been rolling around in a bag for a while. You might go through and make sure it's up to date. And
good point. Good point there.
I did that this past spring because admittedly I am lacking that knowledge, and you guys bring up good points. I should probably do the same thing and seek out some training, but I have basic medical stuff that at least, because I talked to Jade about this years ago. And this reminds me of that conversation. Like, it could have all this medical kit that you want, but if you don't know how to use it, it's worthless.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how to properly apply it. So, and I had a bunch of stuff in my hunting pack that was probably 6 years in there. It's like, well, this is all trash, expired, and wrappers broken and a mess. So, invest a little bit of money, buy up-to-date stuff.
Yep. And some of that stuff you would think, is it to really have a shelf life? Yeah, you take a tourniquet that's 6 years old and you try to turn that thing fiddle string tight and that strap breaks on you, that's a bad day. So
right. Just bite the bullet, invest some money up front and have some stuff that you can actually count on if you absolutely have to.
Yep.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think too, like I've got a couple bird dogs, and again, I'm usually hunting not that far. We get,
you're upland hunting, yeah.
But I really don't have a good vet supply, a supply of bandages or Benadryl if I'm ever anywhere where there's snakes, poisonous snakes, rattlesnakes and stuff like that. I don't have any of that stuff. So I guess I'm going to be purchasing it.
It's just the little stuff, and stop the bleed is obviously that's life-saving stuff. And there's also just some general, medical stuff we all use those replaceable blade Havalons out there, when you're 5, 6, 7 miles from the truck or whatever it is, 2, 3 miles from the truck, and you're cutting up a deer to pack that thing out. Those little Havalons, they'll take some meat out in a darn hurry on accident. So just little stuff like that. And I was actually on a trip here to Africa. So I was on a hunt. I was on the way to the hunt. I'm in the air, 35,000 feet above the earth for the next 13 hours. Like halfway through the trip is black. All the lights are off. Most people are sleeping or watching a movie. So I get up to make a few laps around the cabin and stretch my legs. And I won't bore you with the whole story, but I was in the lavatory and I went to open the door and I heard a very loud thud. And I knew exactly what it was because when I went in, there was a woman who had sat down in like the stewardess seat that faces the rest of the seating right by that door. And sure enough, she's unconscious. So Dad pulled her into the recovery position because she was kind of hunched up, slightly laying down, and called for the stewardess. We got it handled and she ended up being okay. But it was in that moment where I was like, okay, I can handle this, but what if she doesn't have a pulse, or what, there was just a lot of that where I was like, I should probably go get some actual training because it's been several years since I've had some. So, that's what inspired that.
Concealed carry, personal protection, or home defense. Only the best will do. Critical defense ammunition. Developed to provide the best performance for personal protection, no matter what platform you choose. Delivering consistent, reliable performance. Every single time. When lives are on the line, only the best will do. Hornady Critical Defense Ammunition.
Moving on to the next one. This one goes without saying. I feel like there are a lot of people who live their hunting life based on what I'm about to say. But you got your deer hunts, your elk hunts, your antelope hunts, your black bears, you're doing all this stuff. What do you do when it's all over? You get your butt out there and you go predator hunting. That's what you do. And that goes without saying. But if you're not a predator hunter and you're a deer hunter or elk hunter, antelope hunter, whatever you are, and you're not predator hunting, it gets cold, you get out there and you hunt predators. There's no way around it.
I would say that if you are a deer, antelope, elk, anything other than predator hunters, you should be a predator hunter because those coyote population, predator populations affect your game animal population.
If you're an upland hunter.
Yeah. Yep. So
I think, you have an obligation as a conservationist to help control that. And those coyotes specifically, you'll never kill them to extinction.
No,
The way that they reproduce and the way that they reproduce when they're pressured. You need to get out there and you need to help control that population. And it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, and then we've talked about it before, but the advancement in thermal technology and the thermal imaging stuff, like it's just leaps and bounds ahead of what it was 5 years ago. It's pretty cool to be able to look out there at night and, at 300 or 400 yards away, you can see, okay, that's a coyote. Oh, that's a baby calf, or that's a deer, and just, it's a lot of fun. And it's just, I branded the varmint guy, the varmint hunter here, and I love it. I would spend every day of the week calling coyotes if I could. Obviously, I've got to work, but it's just a lot of fun, and it's something that's super easy to take the kids out and get them into it, and make 5, 6, 7, 8 sets in a day, and just cover some country, and you're helping the farmers and the ranchers and all the other hunters out there by eliminating some of those coyotes.
Yeah,
it's my favorite kind of hunting, just because there's no real limit to it. You can go out whenever you want. And it's like big game hunting. You get your one tag or your 2 tags or whatever, and then you're done with it. Yeah, varmints. That's like the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, so. And in Nebraska, there's no permit required for a resident and no bag limit on a coyote. So you want to go out daytime, nighttime, that's the right time, and as many as you want to shoot. And I'll say, at least in our area, there's plenty of coyotes to get after.
And the other thing that's really cool is, at least here in Nebraska, this state's predominantly private ground, but almost never have I been turned away from a piece of property to hunt coyotes on it. So where that person might deer hunt or have a grandson or kid that hunts deer and stuff like that, so that's off limits. If you want a predator hunt, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be able to kill predators.
You find a rancher that's got cattle out there in the pasture, you wouldn't mind if I shot some coyotes, would you? Yeah. So that's a good point. That is sage advice that, if you've knocked on doors and been turned away for big game stuff, might be different for predators. And for me, for the longest time, predator hunting was something that happened while I was hunting. Like if I'm hunting a deer and I see a coyote, I'm on a coyote hunt now. But I think there is something to be said in that January through March time frame, especially in March when that breeding season's going on, to get a coyote coming into the call hard and you get them on top of you. You could almost smack them around. Sometimes they get so close they come in hard. So that, to me, that's an excitement in and of itself that makes predator hunting something specifically to be sought after. Not just, I'm on a deer or an antelope hunt and I see a coyote, so I shoot it. Get out there, get those things called in, and if you can, get out there at night and experience the adrenaline rush, because it's addicting if nothing else.
Even just walking around at night with thermal and like watching how all the animals behave at night is I find it pretty fun. Just a lot of times we'll just walk around. Obviously, we're looking for raccoons or whatever else we can find. You see deer out there and you see how far you can get away from them or how they react to certain things. It's quite a difference from how they react during the daytime. It's kind of a fun thing to do.
I've even started dabbling a little bit with using a decoy dog. So like my one bird dog, it has they call it a collar condition to recall. So it uses electronic collar to give him a signal to recall him to me. And so he just kind of roams around as I'm calling, and it just is a visual aid almost to get those coyotes that are hung up out there a long ways away to come in, because they see it as an intrusion on their territory. So, and then had it last year. We called a buddy and I were hunting, called in a pair, shot one coyote. The other one ran off, but he saw my dog there, and my dog went over to that first coyote, and that second coyote, come back in on a mission. He was gonna fight. And so caller, signaled my dog to come back to me with his e-collar, and that coyote come right in. It was like, just on a string almost. And so it was just put him right in her lap basically. So it was really neat. And I'm, like I said, I'm not professing to be a master at it or anything like that, but it does work. And it's just something, a different layer of, of the playbook to use.
I like it. Get me excited for doing some predator hunting. And don't forget, you could always have your hand at a bobcat. Those are on the list as well this time of year. All right, the next one's a big one. Going in pretty deep here, and I left it really broad. I don't know really how to present it other than gear. And this is one of those things that I think we all fall victim to at some level, whether it be in your precision rifle equipment, hunting equipment, whatever it is. And I just left it with gear because inevitably, I'm guilty of this. I'll go through a season and I'll go, man, the way blank fits or the way it does this thing, really, it bugs me. And I think there's a better answer here. I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm on the hunt now, and I've got another hunt lined up right after this. I'll take care of it some other time. But man, I really don't like this, that, or the other thing. And then I'll go through all spring, all summer, and I'll get to the fall, and I'll have that same piece of kit that I didn't like last year, and I just didn't take care of it. Same thing with stuff that's broken, stuff that's dirty, stuff that needs re-sewn. Just there's so many fill in the blanks that I'll go, oh yeah, I need to take care of that. I need to try something new here. And then I just don't. And I end up with the same annoyance that next year, and I'm the one to blame. So what do you guys think? You have any gear things moving in for this next year?
The big one for me that I think just off the top of my head is, especially with like the precision rifle world, but I think it applies to the hunting world, is those OBI. Those, the company's called OBI, and it's a little like half moon deal you put on the strap of your pack, and then another thing that hooks on your rifle, and it just hangs right there.
Yeah.
And so I just, my right shoulder's not that good, so having to, carry a rifle and try to walk into an area, I really feel like those OBI mounts and everything like that is going to be something I need to add to all of my rifles and my packs and everything. Precision rifle stuff and hunting rifles.
So how many years have you been like, wow, I just need to do that, and then you didn't do it?
Probably 3 years.
So that's exactly right. You get 3 years of like, oh, there's a product that'll fix this problem, and you just haven't done it.
Because I don't really like rifle slings either, because when you're trying to clamp something in a tripod or trying to, manipulate a bipod, it just, to me, the slings, and they always seem like they want to slide off my shoulders. I just don't like rifle slings, so those OBI mounts are the way to go. That's
pretty clutch. Is there anything you guys got that, might help the listener in evaluating the gear or anything like that?
I'm in a lot of the run and gun whitetail stuff, mainly early season archery stuff too. And so I'm constantly tweaking tree stand and sticks, how I'm getting to the tree, how I'm carrying that stuff to the tree, and just that whole package of kit and how do I lighten it up if I can. But like you said, every year it's like, gosh, I'm not really happy with how this particular thing works, and I should probably improve on that. And yet here I am, like 4 years with the same exact setup, maybe little tweaks here and there, but in general, that's my biggest gripe with myself. Like, you can improve on this, but I'll just make do and do the same thing I usually do.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, packs.
Packs
thing
are
with
a
my
big
pack,
one.
what I carry in my pack. Try to minimize some stuff, and like back to the med kit stuff, and reevaluate all that. And I got a big pack with 2 big bays, call it. And the past few years, it was just stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
I think Preston even saw it one time, and I was like, I think I got that thing in my pack. And he was like, dude, you need to clean that up. Just stuff floating everywhere. I couldn't find anything in there if I wanted, so I got some smaller bags, and they're labeled kits for kill kit and med kit and snack bag, and just I can actually find stuff that I need now. So
yeah, that in and of itself is a huge takeaway. I'm sure Miles was this way too, or maybe drill instructors time in India, but compartmentalization, that is clutch.
Yep.
Yeah, this year I got a new bag, new Hill People gear bag, and yeah, I needed just a little bit more space than the one that I had been carrying around.
And you've been carrying it around for 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Another one of those.
It works.
It's fine.
It works. And then, you get into the colder matches or something, or rainy matches where you need an extra layer and there's no room for it.
Yep. Good enough is perfect until it's not.
Right. So yeah, finally getting on that. And then mid-year last year, I switched over the stock on my rifle to a Samson from Foundation.
Yeah.
And been tweaking the internal weights and balance on that. So getting that hashed out for this year. Yeah. So.
Excellent. One of the things in regard to gear stuff that I notoriously don't do either is clothing. Clothing is very much a part of the gear, and I'll go through like, I need to get new insoles. Yeah. Fast forward to next year. And it's just one of those things. And socks is a big one. Shoelaces is a big one, where just invest some money in some good stuff, especially in the sock category and a few other things. And you can really set yourself up for success next season if you just do it now. If like those laces are thin or they're old or they're a little bit dry rotted because they've been wet and dried, just replace them now. So you don't get out on a hunt 3 miles from the truck and you'll get out of the tent and lace your boot up and it goes pop.
Pop her right off. I had that happen at the finale this year for the PRS finale. Second day, went to lace up my boot. Of course, it rained on us the end of day one, and go to lace up, pull it, and just pop that sucker right off. It's like, dang it. Of course, it's 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, so there's not a lot of places open.
Yep.
So
it's the little things.
Yep.
So PSA, go through your gear, go through your entire kit, from your clothing, your boots, the firearm, the bow, if that's your thing, whatever it is, and really give yourself an honest discussion about, okay, what do I need to tweak, if anything, and then tweak it. Just follow through with it. Don't write it down. Don't get analysis paralysis and do a week's worth of research and then end up forgetting about it, because you're going to end up to reach for that piece of gear come next fall, and it's going to be in the same state you left it. So yeah, analyze your stuff, go through it. There's a way to tweak it. There's a way to make it better, lighter, more efficient, whatever it is. And just take care of it now. And the biggest thing is follow through with it. I'm notorious for doing a bunch of research on something and then squirrel, and then I just forget about it. So definitely go through the gear, add what you need. Kind of related to the preparedness and also going through your gear thing. We're talking about your bag just being kind of out of control for a little while. One of the gear things that I've been taking more serious with my current role as the PR guy, I travel a ton. And with as many firearms and optics and ammo and stuff that I travel with, flying is very inconvenient. So if it's within about 3 states of Nebraska, I'm driving. And I set my truck up in a specific way that really works for me with the topper and the drawers and everything I got going on. Take a look at what gear you have in your vehicle as well. Like you mentioned, with hats and gloves and a jumper pack and an impact gun and just all this little stuff that, like, who's ever had to change a tire? Pretty much everybody. It'd really make this easier, an impact. And I went 2 years on this job without having an impact in my truck, and I don't anymore. I actually followed through with it. But that's another one, is take a look at what you have in your vehicle, in your hunting rig, Yeah, you might only be 1.5 miles from the truck or 800 yards from the truck, but your truck might be several hours from a convenience store, a Walmart, or whatever. So, have some stuff to self-rescue in the truck as well. All right, moving on to the next one. We'll not spend a ton of time here, but it's something I would encourage everyone to. It's the off season. It's time to witness the fitness. Don't let yourself go this off season not knowing what your next on season brings. You never know when you're going to draw that tag. You've been putting in for whatever tag for however many years. This could be the year. Or maybe you've got resident tags or general tags, and you're going to be in the backcountry. You're going to be in the mountains. You're going to be pounding the sandhills. You're going to have a bunch of time off work to go pheasant hunting, and you're going to be putting miles on miles on miles on. Don't let yourself get to a point where you're not physically ready to take advantage of those hunting and outdoor opportunities that you might get, because that can happen easy. We see it happen to people all the time. And like I said, I won't spend a ton of time on it, but for me, that's something I take serious, and I feel like you don't have to be training for the Olympics. You just have to keep a good thought, a conscious thought about what you're doing. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm guilty of lacking there, but I've usually relied on my past physical activities to carry me where I need to go.
Collegiate athlete? Tall.
Generally staying active. I do a lot of scouting in the spring, and that put miles on, carrying a pack, and do that all fall.
Carry miles around?
Anyway. Yeah, but just as I'm getting older, I can tell I need to pick that category up, get a little bit more in shape. Yeah. Well, especially once I start Western hunting more.
All of us here, I'm sure, I know Matt for damn sure, those old injuries when you were 20 years old, 18 years old, didn't mean anything. Fast forward another, 15 years, and it's like, yeah, I remember doing that.
Yeah, it's creeping up. It's getting bad. I need to probably get some surgeries lined up or something, but that's neither here nor there. I'm into varmints and hunting pheasants, so that's what it'll wait. So
yeah. Well, don't wait too long. And I think a big one here, again, you don't have to be training for the Olympics. Just be cognizant of what you're putting in the old suck hole. That has a huge play on how you're going to perform, especially when you get in season, and maybe you don't train at all, but you get the shot of an opportunity, but you got to get up that hill, and you have to get up there right now. The ability to get to the top of that hill and then have enough breathing control to make it or execute a shot can be huge. Throw in stuff like NRL Hunter or some other type matches like the Sniper Adventure Challenge or the Mammoth Sniper Challenge. There's a bunch of matches where you have to be more than a trigger puller to excel, and just having a decent baseline of some semblance of physical performance is going to help you immensely.
Yeah. Nothing worse than showing up and not being ready for the event.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sure pretty much everybody's been there at least once, and sucks bad enough that you'll go out of your way to make
not
sure
do
it
that
doesn't
again.
happen again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it can also lead to other physical injuries. I saw this the year I ran the Mammoth Sniper Challenge, where you have day 1 and 2, tough, whatever. Day 3, there were people that obviously didn't have the physical prowess to be doing that, but they're mentally tough and they're getting through it, and permanent damage to knees and feet and ankles and hips and just lower backs. And so something that I take serious, and I think in the off season, it's something everybody should be thinking about.
Find the latest shirts, hats, hoodies, and accessories that you see here on the podcast and much more at HornadyGear.com.
All right, so this one more Miles related, Matt related, because you guys are the precision rifle competitor gurus. But in the world of training, I feel like the off season, that's doesn't matter what you're doing, shooting sports, competitive sports, whatever it is. If you have an off season, you need to be training to get better. And what's your take on the precision rifle sports? Because you're both super involved in that. What are you doing to prepare for the next season? I know Miles is sitting at a loading bench cranking ammo out a bunch, but what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, you can dry fire practice pretty much any time. There's make the little apertures for your front objective that basically allow your parallax to work or focus to work, inside at 10 yards or so. So as long as you can clear a safe space across a room or your house or your garage or whatever, you can set up and dry fire practice. Like you said, I'm getting set up now to reload a couple thousand rounds of ammo that'll hopefully last most of the way, if not all the way through the season.
And that's unique to not just you, but amongst us. There's a lot of us, the guy behind the camera, me, I don't know about Matt. We compete just enough to say that we compete, So I'm shooting factory rejects. I'm shooting precision hunter hunting ammo. I'm shooting A-tips. I'm shooting ELE match. I'm shooting just a motley group of whatever. But you have several barrels that you have verified shoot the same load. And so you're just able to turn the handle on and just start going.
If I can't get at least 350, 400 rounds of the same batch of components, then it's pretty well useless to me.
Yeah, so you're trying to load several thousand.
Right. You can do close range barricade practice with odds and ends here and there, but if I'm going to take it to a match, I need 230 rounds for the match, and then I probably need to practice, shoot up before that match. Make sure that the system is put together and is performing the way that I think it is at my zeros where I think it is, and velocity is what I think it is, all those things. That
Times
checks out.
10 matches a year or more.
I get to be a little bit much sometimes, but yeah, for sure, at least 5 or 6.
All right, so you're doing dry fire practice, and you're loading ammo again. You're shooting everybody knows you're shooting 6mm arc, you're shooting 110 A-tips, you're shooting varget, so you're just cranking those out. Matt, as far as precision rifle sports go, you are our shooting sports manager. You're in charge of our whole entire shooting sports. So the complexity there is Miles is really focused on the precision rifle game. Your precision rifle, 3-gun, USPSA, like all of the shooting sports. So what do you do in the off season besides just try to hang on tight?
Yeah, I just, I've kind of got my fingers in a little bit of everything. So mainly I'm just making sure my gear is ready to go and it performs how I need it to. And with that really, and then, the other side of that is I'm just kind of the liaison for the match directors to Hornady. And so that's kind of not my primary focus, but I feel like that's more of where I bring benefit to the table is being that liaison and making sure these match directors around the country have what they need to make sure their match is supported and we're represented. Hornady, the company's represented. And so I am a little lacking on time, so I'm going to shoot factory ammos where I can, but I make sure that it shoots really well out of my guns, and I try to get enough of that same lot to be able to make it through 2, 3, 4 matches or whatever. But so I'm not shooting a lot of hand loads anymore as compared to what I did 5 years ago. But I might start hand loading. I've got enough 6-arc brass now saved up. I might start loading for my 6-arc.
Yeah, well, definitely a good time to take advantage of the dry fire stuff. When it's cold, it's snowy, you can dry fire. That doesn't cost you a thing to just practice your trigger control, trigger manipulation, sight alignment, sight picture, that kind of stuff, especially with the pistol. And my gosh, with that short aperture, you can really mess a lot of things up with just a little bit of imperfection here or there. So with the pistol, I am notoriously not good at that.
Back to the 3-gun stuff, pistol, so draw stroke from a holster, and I'd run just a loophole RDS on my AR. So bringing that up from high ready, low ready, whatever, to get that dot on target quickly, acquiring my sight picture and making sure I'm hitting where that dot is. But I'm a little bit unique because I have the ability to shoot right at my house. So I can go outside and load up 5, 6, 8 AR mags and run through a couple hundred rounds really quickly and practice and just, get some run up and down the driveway a few times, get my heart rate up, and then, draw my
So you're witnessing the fitness and you're training on the firearm.
Yeah. And then I built a barricade. So I'm practicing with my PRS gun and just, running through that and making sure I can do everything, in 90 seconds or 105 seconds or whatever. So.
Yeah, I try to make a point too to get out, even when it's cold and cruddy, and go practice as well. Get some live fire practice in, because basically everything up till June, you're rolling the dice as to what the weather's going to give you.
Yeah, I can guarantee you what the weather is. It's going to suck now. In the spring, it's going to be 20 to 50 mile an hour winds. In the summer, it's going to be hot. That's
yeah. I don't know how many times we've been to matches where it's 38 degrees and raining with the wind blowing, and that can, if you're not used to that, or if you don't, practice at least a little bit, know what's coming, you can really put people in a mental space where they aren't there to compete.
Yep. They're there to survive. That's that. So if you want to take yourself from mid-pack shooter to maybe top of the mid-pack, top half of the bottom third or whatever it is, do some training in the off season specific to what you're trying to achieve. And I think it's also helpful when you are training to have a direction and an end result in mind, that you're not just out there. There's, in the regard to fitness, there's what I would consider training and exercising. And they can look really similar, but there is a difference. And then training is having a specific intent in mind, with a specific goal in mind, and working towards that. And there's a place for both of them. There's a place to, in this reference, just to exercise, to just keep a baseline of what you have going on because of time constraints, or you're traveling or whatever. But it's important, I think, to keep a tab on where you've been and where you're going and how you're going to get there. And I think that translates not just to fitness, but in training with their firearms and as well. Like you talked about with the 3-gun, where you've got multiple guns and you've got holstering and you've got all these things that are unholstering rather, that are going on. You can just go through the motions, or you can purposefully go through those motions and gain more benefit that way. So definitely do some training. The last one I have is, I'm going to, 2 things in one here, 3 things rather. Strategize, which is 2 parts. Strategize in the world of hunting, and strategize for your next competition year. And then e-scouting. So e-scouting, not necessarily related to planning your next competitive year, what matches you're going to hit, where do you want to travel, logistics, that whole thing. But in regard to hunting, you start really digging into e-scouting. You can have more success in the fall with less work based on how much work you put in the off season.
Yeah, that's huge for me as a public land whitetail guy trying to find places to go. Basically use Onyx or Google Earth and find spots that look like they can hold deer, look like they're probably not going to get pounded hard. They're not close to a big population center, access, all that stuff. And then especially for Western hunting, I mean, that's invaluable, trying to search online rather than purely relying on boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. Boots on the ground is a big thing for me too here in Nebraska for public land whitetails. And I like to shed hunt too. So that's a big part of my spring is, like I said a little bit ago, miles on the boots and cover a lot of ground, try to find some whitetail sheds, figure out what that rut sign is from the past fall, figure out where I should be spending time this coming season. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that does start with e-scouting, especially with new spots, trying to figure out a new spot that I haven't been to before. Yep,
that's a big one. And this happened to one of our coworkers, actually. So one of our coworkers, he's a newer guy, been here just a couple of years. He hadn't done any Western style hunting, and I'm a big advocate of the sandhills. Sandhills, 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 sandhills. I want no one to know how great they are, so I can just live out there alone, because there's no one out there. There's nothing out there. It's just God's country. And every time I take someone out there, they just go like, what planet are we on? Like, we just came from Grand Island. There's no way that we're in the same rigging. There's just no way. So anyways, he grew up hunting, but hadn't done any like spot and stock style hunting. And so I encouraged him to go out to this big public land chunk that I've had success on in years past for whitetail and mule deer. And it's a great place to hunt. There's plenty of land. There's plenty of place to spread out. There's plenty of animals out there. And I didn't have the time to go with him. Otherwise, I certainly would have. But I let him borrow some gear, and he went out there on a hunt. And what happened was there was animals, but he didn't find anything worth pursuing. And he had a flat tire. So he gets the spare on, takes his tire into the small town, and there's a shop there that's going to patch it for him. And while he's talking to some guys in there, there was a new chunk of public land enrolled into the walk-in access program not far away. But he hadn't seen it on OnX Hunt because it wasn't on OnX Hunt. You know where it was? Nebraska Public Land Atlas. So it was a late addition. So if you were on the Nebraska Public Land Atlas website, you would have found it. But just, OnX and the other mapping services hadn't had time to upload it. He was able to go out there, have a great hunt in the beautiful sandhills, and harvest his first mule deer on this chunk that most people didn't know existed, that was publicly accessible. And then that ties right into just doing your due diligence, e-scouting. So much you can do on the computer that's going to benefit you later when your boots are actually on the ground.
Yeah, that's a good point about that public walk-in not being on onX yet. And I've also seen it the other way, where something's been taken out of walk-in access. onX still shows it as public, but it just hasn't updated yet. You go to the public access atlas for the state website, and it's private ground now and no public access. So it doesn't hurt to confirm if there's multiple resources there, just to confirm.
Yep. And I feel like another important thing, not e-scouting, but strategizing, tags. You got to figure out what you're doing for permits. What are you putting in for? Where are you hunting? How many points do you have in certain areas? And then that goes without saying. One of the big ones that our main man, Judge Arzinka, kind of almost ran into a couple years ago was, are you sure you want to draw that tag this year? Because you're very also likely to draw this tag, and they could conflict with each other. And then when you start throwing in, you got kids that are going hunting, Matt, there's definitely some forethought that needs to go into what you're doing in the fall.
Yeah, for sure. And the more I think about listening to you guys e-scout, and I don't do a lot of I mean, I've got onX, and obviously I have a boatload of pins on all the places that I hunt, but I'm using coyote hunting as a way for me to scout on the ground that I have permission on.
Yeah.
So, because you're going to see deer moving, you're probably going to bump deer and stuff like that. Obviously, for me, when I'm walking into area, I always try to make sure I've had the wind in my face, and when I'm walking in to set up and everything like that, because that just plays into coyote hunting also when you're making your sets. But you see the rut sign, you see trails, you see, scrapes, all that stuff. And then you see where deer are bedding. You get a good idea of how they use the terrain to move and where bedding areas are, where, scrape lines and rubs are and all of that stuff. So I'm scouting for deer while I'm varmint hunting. So,
well, and I think we had a podcast with Jeff Nimnick. I can't remember if he said this or if Judd said this, or maybe that has nothing to do with it, and I'm remembering it from somewhere else, but you will not find a really good coyote hunter that's bad at deer hunting. Coyotes are so aware of what you're doing, and you have to be so cognizant of where you park, where the wind is, what you look like, what way's your scent blowing. Like, there's just so many things that a coyote will pin you on at 500 or 600 yards away. And you won't find a really good coyote hunter who's also not a really good deer hunter. But that's an important point in the part of strategizing and scouting is use your time in the field predator hunting to set you up for success in the fall, and make sure you're managing your permits correctly. And is there some states where if you don't use it, you lose it, or if you fail to put in that next year for that point, do you lose that?
I do think there are some, and I am not up to date like I used to be on that as much as I was a few years ago, but I'm pretty sure there is one or two states where if you don't at least get another preference points, you might lose what you have if you don't either apply or buy another point. And there's some that I think if you got 3 years to use preference points before you actually apply, and you might lose them. You could have a full-on semester course to get in tune with all the Western
and they're all
game
different.
Applications. Oh yeah, they're all different.
That's frustrating too. Miles, what are you thinking about as far as competitive stuff goes? Do you strategically plan your next year, or are you, I'll hit what I can with the time I have allowed kind of guy? A little bit of both.
It's mostly travel distance for me. And there's a few key matches that, like destination matches I like to hit. So anything in the States just west of us, obviously, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota. Yeah. If those are available, I try to get to those. Some of them are too far away. I definitely have a preference going west versus east just because I like the terrain and the mountains and generally get more wind out there, a little more separation in the scores. I tend to like that. But other than that, that's pretty much it. I am guilty though for the big game tag thing of absolutely spacing it out until
refusing. Like, I don't know if you feel like this or not, but the way I have interpreted your feelings are, I'm not going to play that game. Go pound sand.
For deer, for sure. I have a hard time getting excited about putting in preference points for a deer hunt. And antelope is kind of the same way. I'm sure I could see it more for antelope. Elk I'll play ball. I just always forget and don't really have an in well enough to know what I should be doing. So I probably just need to ask around more. But yeah, it's just something that I got spoiled when I lived in South Dakota with the public land that was available and the tags and everything. And now that I'm in Nebraska, it feels like I'm in the abyss.
You're handcuffed.
The abyss of private land. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all know how you feel.
But yeah, I don't dislike. I love big game hunting. It just I'm not gonna. There's a certain threshold of stuff I'll put up with to go do it, and then it's not fun for me.
Yep, I hear you.
If I have to fight other hunters on public land because that's 2% of the state and that's where everybody goes, you can count me out.
Yep, fair enough.
The Hornady Rapid Safe Keypad Vault offers quick, dependable access to your firearm while providing security from unauthorized users. The Rapid Safe Keypad Vault is constructed of a heavy-duty 14-gauge steel housing and thick steel lid for tamper-proof security. The included RFID watch band tag and RFID decal can be selectively programmed to open this safe and any other Rapid Safe you own. The Rapid Safe Keypad Vault from Hornady Security.
One more thing on the in the world of strategizing and e-scouting and that kind of thing is use this off-season opportunity. If talking about public land, it's obviously overcrowded. It's a lot of fun. I know all of us here enjoy the challenge of getting, big game, mature big game down on public land. It's an incredible challenge and it's very rewarding to do so. Use this off-season to find some private land opportunities. I'm faced with this for the first time in my life where my oldest son is old enough to hunt next year. And all the ground I grew up hunting, that's off limits. I can't with good conscience take him out pounding public land in the sandhills because I want him to have a good experience. And not that all my experiences are bad out there, otherwise I wouldn't keep doing it. There's been enough negative experiences out there that I don't want to expose him to that on his first hunt. And I'm in the position where maybe I need to start knocking on some doors, trying to get roped in on a lease, find some sort of private land access for turkeys and for deer, for whatever. But this is your opportunity to do it before you're got a tag in your pocket and you're looking for somewhere to hunt. So again, a good opportunity, like Matt, you mentioned, maybe use the predator hunting to get some access there.
Yeah.
But that's just something I had thought about when you were talking about, in Nebraska, we are very private land centric and there are awesome world-class animals taken off our public lands every year. I've done it. But man, there's also a lot of drama that goes with that too. And you could find some private land access, especially for your younger hunters out there that you want everybody to have a good experience, and that just might be a way to do it. So with that, guys, in review, we've talked about training, we've talked about being prepared, we've talked about practicing, we've talked about e-scouting, we talked about shooting and cleaning your muzzleloader, and that should also go with all of your firearms. If you have a designated hunting rifle and you know it's not coming out of the safe, I wouldn't leave the powder fouling in there all year. Get your stuff cleaned up, get it serviceable, go through your gear, find what needs tweaked, what needs built, what needs resewn, what needs purchased, and just get it done so that next year you can look yourself in the mirror and go, I am ready for this. And you can't ask a whole lot more of yourself than that. Anything else you'd like to add on this episode?
One more thing. Big bucks are killed in the spring. Everybody needs to know that.
All right. You heard it here. Big bucks killed in the spring.
To clarify, not poaching, but big bucks are killed during scouting. You find them. You figure out what they're doing in the spring.
And then when it comes September 1st and you got the stick and string.
That's the idea anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of truth to that. That one, you got to even know if there's big bucks to be killed. That's my family uses the months of July and August to just go drive around and look at bean fields. I'll mark on Onyx all the bean fields, and then we'll just go drive around the bean fields at about 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. And then you'll see if there's big bucks in the area. And I don't hunt around where I live, but if I did, you have to have an inventory. And like you said, That's sage advice, Ryan. Big bucks killed in the spring.
It's truth.
No, there's been plenty of times when I do get out and go big game hunting where place looks awesome on the satellite image, you're like, oh yeah, they're going to be there. You go out there and look around beforehand and nothing there.
There's nothing there. Yeah, we've all done that.
Hard to kill a big one when there's nothing there.
Yep.
So.
Anything, Matt?
No.
All right. Well, let's get prepared to have a successful 2025 season, and it starts today. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode about what to do when it's all over. When the hunting seasons and the competition seasons are over, what do you do to prepare yourself for better success this coming year? Hopefully you found at least one or two things in this episode that you can implement. We appreciate you listening. We'll catch you on the next one.